Good evening and welcome to Struggle for Justice. I hope you watched the show tonight. It should be very interesting. It's an introduction to Ralph Hamm's new book. Many of us were at the Arts at the Armory in Somerville. It was wonderful. Thank you, Tracy Stark, who is the interim executive director of the Center for Arts at the Armory. It was a great night, and I hope you listen to everything that's on the tape. Bobby is going to introduce this. He's not here for the for me to be able to do this, but he's running around the country, and this is one of the things we did. Please pay attention. This is for Ralph Hamm, who is in Norfolk, 43 years, actually going on 44 years for a non-capital crime. He went in when he was 17 years old. Try and learn about Ralph, and I hope you will buy his book. I thank you very much. I'll be with you next week. We're going to be back on live September 7 to 8 on Thursday night, channel 25. Please show up, and then you can call in and give Father a hard time, because you can't give me a hard time like this. God bless you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. You've done this before. It's Ralph. All right. This is Ralph. Say hello, Ralph.
I don't think the speaker on.
The speaker's on?
No, it's not on.
Amanda. Speaker's on?
Okay.
So if I can't be out there physically, I'm going to send myself out there another way.
Right.
So I have another couple of books that'll be out next year after. And Russ and I are working on a project. We hope to get out to the community to prevent these kids from coming into these prisons. I just wanted to say hi and thanks a lot, you know. I love your support. I love you all.
Love you too, baby.
Speaking, it's not speaking, we know it's not impact, it's just difficult. It's hard to, you know, come up with things to say aside from the side, you know, I know I probably know almost everybody there. You support me out the kids, and I really appreciate it.
Okay.
The feedback.
You better have a phone.
There you go.
That sounds wonderful. I want to say,
Anybody want to say anything, Tom?
I just hope everybody enjoys the book.
I think they enjoyed the book, bro.
Yeah.
What they give him for supper?
Joe, get your stuff underway. I really don't have that much to say. I think I've said it all and got it great. And I'll try to say more in the next one and more in the next one. And like I said, Russ, come on, Russ, we're working on a project now. And,
Stop telling secrets!
Stop telling secrets.
I can't hear. What was that, Bob?
Stop telling secrets. Here, let me give you to Russ, because he's going to tell you something. He got a surprise for you.
I got all your stuff up here, and I'm going to explain to them what you're doing, okay? I wanted to tell them. I will. Okay? Bless you, I love you, and we'll be talking soon. I'm gonna give you back to Bobby, okay? Okay.
Okay, guys? Let me pass you back to Murray. She'll turn the thing down.
All right, looks like Ralph started his own show. He just called it up. All right, perfect timing. We just gotta get the dude out, okay? All right, he's gonna write his way out. All right. So we'll get going. I'm gonna have Bobby come up in a few minutes, and Russ is gonna close up the show with my dear friend Reggie Gibson, poet, prophet extraordinaire, and Kasi Touré, Susan Mortimer, and myself, and my dear friend Clifton Danjou from the North Shore. All right, got them in the corner. So that's how we do it. Thank you all for coming out to Poets Theater. We've had some wonderful book openings here this year so far. We had a great book opening for David Gilbert, one of the political prisoners of the Weather Underground, who's doing life for appropriations back in 1982. And we were packing him up against the wall. Jamie! All right, my friend Jamie. Maybe he's going to do some reading for us too. So we're really excited to be here for Ralph tonight. I met Ralph about 7 or 8 years ago through Jamie Bissonette, who couldn't be here tonight, so she sends her love to everybody. She was doing a whole a book with, and her main people who were providing the information for that book, Bobby DeLillo and Ralph Hamm. And at time in '73, I believe, Bobby can tell a little more about it. There was a period of time when the guards went out on strike. I guess it was Walpole. Was it the one? Yeah, when Walpole, and everyone freaked out, like, all the prisoners going to kill each other and shit like that. And well, they ran the prison better than the guards. No one got murdered. Everything was cool. All the work got done. Everything got cleaned up. And it sort of it messed with their heads, because they were trying to marginalized people inside, that, these were people that were criminally insane or whatever it was, and actually, they were cool. The insane people most of the time were the people that were on top of these people, like the guards or the crew. And so she wrote about that, and that's how I met Ralph. And she'd said at the time, Ralph's this amazing poet. You don't have many people inside to help him with his poetry or to bounce his poems off of. And why don't you come down, because she knew I was a poet, and I said, why don't you bring some of your friends? So I thought my friend Reggie Gibson, and Askia Touré, one of the founders of the Black Arts Movement, who also can't be here tonight. So we all went down and visited Ralph, and Ralph brought his poems out. We started sharing his poems, and we started bouncing stuff off with each other, and it was great for him, because he didn't have any I know how it's important. If you're a writer, you need a community. And I just been through an MFA program, Reggie's been through one. We're part of this big community, and you don't write in isolation. You don't do your art in isolation. You need a community. And it was a huge support for Ralph that we were able to come down, and he could give us his poems to us, and we could bounce them back and send him some notes on that stuff. And so that's sort of how I got to know Ralph. So anyway, I'm going to bring up Bobby DeLillo, who's going to open the night, and then I'll be reading some stuff. Reggie, Kasi Touré, Susan, and Cliff, and we'll close it up with Ralph. So please welcome Bobby DeLillo.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It was kind of strange the way I first met Ralph. Bridgewater State Hospital, they closed what was called the defective delinquents in the alcohol section. So they created what was known as DSU-2, Department Segregation Unit 2. That was to give guards jobs, or they would have had to let go 300 guards. And we were in the cells that you had nuts in that threw the waste on the walls and stuff. And there was a lot of turmoil and noise one night, and looking out the little door window, there was a, say, between good 30 to 40 guards coming down the corridor. And there was this tall, thin, black individual who was bleeding down the middle of his forehead. And he was walking very proud, very arrogant. And I was looking at him and said, you know, this kid is either out of his fucking mind or he got some good heart. You know? And they put him in the other section from where my group was. And they put us together out in the yard. Now we find out, you know, his case and whatnot. And me and Ralph are now together out in the yard. And what it was a setup. They were setting Ralph up, assuming that I would do something. And they were up in the windows and stuff. And our crew of people don't beat people up for guards. If we beat someone up, it's a personal issue between us. We don't do stuff for guards. And I grabbed Ralph, I said, listen. I said, see the guards up there? And I explained to him what the situation was. I said, look, I'm not your keeper. And all my friends in this corridor here are not your keeper. And that was the start of a good friendship between me and Ralph. I started educating him as to the conditions and whatnot. I said, look, when I go back into my section, I will let everybody there know that you're being set up. And any white guys that come out of my section, don't worry about it. There will be no beef, no trouble. We don't work for guards. And several times after that, we got together out in the yard, and he was a 17-year-old kid, you know, and he had a good heart, was intelligent, and I explained to him about the realities of prison. And by the time we got back to Walpole Prison, we were organizing, and Ralph got into black history and got interested in what was going on in the prison system, and I educated him to the politics of prison. And he was a hell of an individual in the jail. He is what we call in the prison a stand-up convict. Not a prisoner, he was a convict, like the rest of us. The reason he's in jail now 43 years is he has now become a political prisoner. Ralph organized the black population in Walpole in a manner that they were never organized before. And they hate his guts for having done that. And they couldn't divide and conquer in the prison. Now, the book that was being made reference to is When the Prisoners Ran Walpole. The guards went on a strike, and the intent was that they thought there was going to be a bloodbath in Walpole Prison. At the time, in an 18-month period, 20 people were murdered in Walpole. Walpole was considered one of the most dangerous prisons in the country. And that's what we're working with. They went out on strike, and I mean, this was real crazy time. The Boston Herald, and we have a copy of it somewhere, said as a headline, "Boom the Coon." We had a black commissioner of corrections, and they referred to him as Boom the Coon. And this was the racial atmosphere that was going on in the prison, which ended up drawing the prisoners together tighter and tighter, and we overcome the racial issues. The guards went out anticipating a bloodbath, and that would get the black commissioner thrown out of office, and it didn't work that way. What ended up happening is we prisoners ran the prison for 12 weeks, a 3-month period. No one got slapped, let alone killed, in the prison. And they were sick. They couldn't believe it. And there's a video that if people want to get a hold of me, I'll make copies and get it to you. 3,000 Years in Life. And if you read the book, the video is the visual of what the book is talking about. You'll see prisoners actually running the prison, doing counts, passing out medication. Nobody lost medication. And one of the things you'll see in the book is the reason these people got killed. Walpole population was 580 prisoners at the time. 265 prisoners were on a drug called Talwin. Talwin is a synthetic narcotic. They were using drugs to control the prison population. They had prisoners on 80 milligrams of Adderall a day. That's speed. And that's where all the paranoia and all the crazy shit was coming from. We didn't realize it at the time until somebody stole the drugs. And then talking with the medics, we had some medics that came from Vietnam. These kids were awesome. And they ran it down to me. And I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no, listen, some guys are sent to the hospital with instructions from the deputy's office to put them on Talwin for 3 or 4 days for being informants. And this is what caused all the murders in Walpole. None of them bastards went to jail for that. But in spite of all the opposition, Ralph stood there like a man. He's still standing there like a man. And today, Ralph is a political prisoner. And it is time that we get the community together and say, enough is enough. This Conway, who was the head of the parole board, this piece of garbage had asked Ralph if he, was a man of principle, and Ralph said, Judge said, then why don't you die in jail? This is the same bastard, right, that let Sinelli out of the street and got a cop killed. This is what Ralph is running into. And someone's going to tell us some good stuff that's happening with Ralph, so I'll leave that for that. But it's time, folks, that we get off our asses and start protesting. Ralph is a political prisoner right now. Let's get him the hell out of jail. He doesn't belong there. 43 years is too much. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I was just saying goodbye to Ralph. He says he didn't realize he was opening up his whole show, He called really timely. All right, that was great. All right, Bobby, thank you so much. And I'm going to bring up Reggie Gibson, poet, singer, songwriter, dear friend, who's going to read some stuff from Ralph. All right, Reggie Gibson.
Good evening to all. I first had the honor of meeting Ralph several years ago when I was asked to come there by Richard, and it was in Norfolk at the time. And the thing I think that immediately struck me about him, besides the enormity of the man physically, was the enormity of the man spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. We, both of us being interested in poetry and being interested in words, we both had this idea that words can somehow liberate. We were thinking about, why is it that if you ask our youth if they understand what nirvana means, they do not know. If you ask them what satyagraha is, they do not know. If you ask them what transcendental meditation is, they do not know. But when you ask them what is Norfolk, they know. What is Walpole, they know. Statutory, they know. House arrest, they know. They know none of the words for human liberation, but they know all of the words for human incarceration. Words can determine your world. Ralph, being a man of words, he understood and understands that, and I think he found them quickly as he was incarcerated. And